This 12th of September, a game came out that I was eagerly awaiting to play. I don't know why I was waiting for it nor how I learned about its release. But despite the mysterious origin of the knowledge, at the end of the day I couldn't be more happy to have the game's name written on a post-it attached to my PC, because when I finally played it, I realized that what I just finished was nothing short of a goddamn masterpiece, and simply because this game is one of a bunch that I truly consider to be horror. This is Hollowbody. In the mid-21st century, a catastrophic incident unfolded along the western coast of the British Isles, a suspected bioterrorism attack of unknown origins, targeting one of numerous British cities long since plagued by economic hardship and depravity. As panic swept the nation, authorities and private security firms raced against time to evacuate the fortunate few deemed high-value citizens to the neighboring city of Ionis, a sprawling metropolis constructed atop of a man-made landmass floating in the expanse of the North Atlantic Ocean. Fearing the unchecked contagion could spread, towering walls were erected around the western cities, sealing them off from the rest of civilization. Weeks of relentless orbital strikes rained down on what were once bustling urban centers, incinerating any hope for those abandoned within the quarantine zone. 6 long decades have passed since the fall of western cities. While many who suffer strive to forget, there are still those fighting for answers and justice. The game now takes you on a beach. The gargantuan walls in the back suggest that despite 60 years gone since the accident, the pathogen continued to be active, and humanity is still trying to figure out what really happened, or perhaps what's still happening. A thought confirmed to be reality when our colleague finds the most awkward way to start a dialogue with our character, Sasha.
Time to spill the beans. What's your trauma?
Nah, don't you worry, it's not going to be one of those games. He's been so dramatic because they are a group of unpaid researchers that are studying the adjacent area of one of the many cities that fell after the outbreak in an attempt to discover what really happened. Which even after 60 years is a secret that remains uncovered, and then someone is trying to maintain as such.
Personally, mine's pretty vanilla. They took my son.
And it doesn't get much different for Sasha.
I'm looking for answers. My mother was one of the kids that made it out. Her parents weren't so lucky. And almost everyone screwed up. That much they couldn't hide. I'm just sick of no one being held accountable.
But unfortunately there is no time for family avenging, because once these two fellas meet up with the other scientists, they complain about the absence of a colleague who disappeared a handful of minutes ago, probably because he went to take a shit somewhere and you are tasked with finding him. After looking up and down, you can't find anything of interest except for a distant opening in the stone. Intrigued, and because there's nothing else to do, you get closer. Maybe the missing scientist went inside to dump a fat one in peace, but before you have time to react, the camera switches position, highlighting something that shouldn't be there. However, it's too late and you're already inside. Cave is pitch dark, so much so that Sasha needs to light a flare in order to see something. And I have no idea nor intention to discover where she was storing it, but it is a good deed that she got it out, since after walking a handful of meters, she's thrown by her infected colleague in the depths of the earth, and a foreign object in a pocket could have been really harmful. It's clear that whatever pathogen was used to hit the western cities is still dangerous and highly infectious. So much so that days go by without anyone hearing nothing from Sasha nor from the other scientists, meaning that somehow even who was outside met a dire fate. Or maybe not, because after all we don't know if nearby the western cities there is signal or service. But still, with each passing hour the possibilities of Sasha's survival can only decrease. And so, after 12 excruciating days without any news, an improbable rescuer finally steps into action. Two people are discussing a plan over the phone. They want to infiltrate the fallen cities where our favorite human condom may be. And when the dude named Tax shows some hesitation, it becomes obvious who our character is gonna be.
She's still out there, Tax. Somewhere. Scared and alone.
Without wasting more time than necessary, Mika sets off toward
what once was the land of the lords and lords, Great Britain, or at least what's left after he got out from the European Union. During the drive, Tax mentioned some blocker fluid utilized to temporarily prevent infection, and that you only have 24 hours to find Sasha before the clearance used to get out from the city gets flagged, at which point...
You missed that window, and I got 2 lost friends.
Okay. Obviously the constables are keeping an iron curtain on Eonis. They want to prevent any possibility of a contagion. Or maybe for someone to report on things are outside. But frankly, it's not that important because if you paid attention, you may have noticed that Mika is driving a flying Lamborghini Countach, which can only be described as the pinnacle of Italian engineering. And as such, it catastrophically breaks down. Now, of course, that isn't what happened. What really went down is that someone used an EMP or electromagnetic pulse to fry Mika, Blue and me stereo. Or maybe the car crashed due to us being utterly useless with everything mechanical, or electrical, or political, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Because, as you learn, the result would have been the same, even if the car was German. Somehow Mika survived. The towering walls facing her back imply that you have indeed infiltrated the so-called western cities, but the destroyed cars means that just like Sasha, you are stuck and terribly hurt. But at least that doesn't remain a problem for long, because thanks to a first aid spray found in a nearby abandoned ambulance, you can now focus on finding a place tall enough to let the signal out from the walls, and a neighboring condo may be the right place where to try. Despite the crash, audibly making a lot of noise, no one shows up. Perhaps the relentless weeks of bombing mentioned in the intro really did eradicate every form of life in this forgotten city. The streets are void of any life, only filled with junk and old police barriers used to create roadblocks. The abandoned cars, once driven with pride by their owners, are now rotting under decades of relentless exposition to the weather. There were people here once, but now they're all gone. And it hurts my soul to say this, but in this specific case, it's true for the game as much as it is for the real world. Now, of course, in here it wasn't a bioterrorism attack, but rather a nameless electrical company that deliberately refused to sell their houses back to the people that worked decades for them in retaliation to their nearby dam being closed due to security concerns, forcing every single soul out on the streets while they're being jobless, and all of that just to let everything rot. And yet, despite decades of abandonment, if you find the right spot, the place still echoes with the voices of the past. In a slightly hidden street, you start to hear your Kotak radio picking up some weird interferences. Upon using it, you hear a woman speaking with an officer.
What do you think you're doing? My husband has work in the morning.
It's just a precaution, Mom. All residents are advised to stay in their homes until further notice.
This is absurd.
Given the dialogues, the lady was protesting the initial phase of the quarantine where they started to forcefully prevent people from leaving the city.
Prisoners in our own damned homes.
Luckily, the condo is pretty close, so you get there quickly. But not far from a playground where children used to spend their afternoons playing and getting tetanus, you find the first clue that Mika may not be as alone as initially thought. Under a shed, in the top left side of the parking lot, you can find the body of a man with a box of bullets nearby. Even though the body is covered in blood, the wacky interface, which is never explained, tells you that he perished due to pulmonary embolism. Well, blood and bullets. If that isn't foreshadowing, then I don't know what it is, which in a way is also why I love this intro so much. It smoothly tells you that if you don't give a damn, the game will give you what necessary to survive, but if you look hard enough, you'll always find a reward. Most of the times. Let's say that 70% of the time you look for something, you will 100% find a reward. Anyway, with everything done, it's time to warn you. If you haven't played Hollowbody, please do it. It's an amazing game, and from now on there will be spoilers and terribly argued theories that will ruin your first play. But if you prefer watching an insane narrated by a barely comprehensible man, well then, welcome to the apartments.
Okay, time to find a way up to the roof.
Given the context, the insides of the building appear to be in relatively good shape, even having electricity. Not here though. So perhaps somewhere there still are some functional aeolic turbines, or someone is still directing electricity to ease the life of those few still trapped.
By moving slightly forward, you find the first obstacle, a locked security box. But with the right tool, Mika may be able to open it, so you start looking for something to get the job done. In the lobby, you find a map of the 3rd floor, with something scribbled onto it. Fortunately, Mika still can reach the roof, due to the stairs being blocked by rubble, and the first 2 floors are locked shut, so you start from the 3rd. The hallways are pitch dark, and most doors are electronically locked, but those few which can be opened are a window over decades of isolation. Trash and empty alcoholic beverage shield the floor from being seen.
Just by taking a look at a single flat, you can tell that these people spent the last months or years of their life in total isolation, venturing out just to get some food or water. And since our reality a handful of years ago was so kind to give us all a demonstration of what's like to live like that, we know that this way of survival takes a toll on everyone, on someone more than others, but most importantly, earlier rather than later.
Babe, are you sure you're alright? You've not touched your dinner.
I'm not hungry.
Did you guys eat after work? Or...
I'm not hungry.
Oh, come on, you didn't take your lunch with you today. You have to eat something.
Get out.
What?
Take a walk. Give me some fucking space.
Honey, you're scaring me. Please tell me what's wrong. We can work this out.
I said, take a walk.
This is our home. I live here.
Get the fuck out of my house.
Needless to say, things did not work out. Because when people are pushed to the limits by anxiety, poverty, uncertainty for the future, and in this case a mutagenic pathogen that may have people monsters, they become capable of the most heinous acts, like hurting their loved ones or making wars on the #1 played game. How could you possibly have done that, you piece of shit?
Lucky you, this game is set in a slightly better reality than ours, so instead of a PlayStation 13 with only Warzone 7.0 installed because it has no games, you find a rotting skeleton wearing a white sundress. The rest of the floor isn't any better. Each explorable flat tells a different story. Sometimes it's of violence or of simple survival. Like this girl who, after surviving countless years after the outbreak, ended up with no water. Starting to suffer from dehydration, she desperately began to destroy the floor, hoping to find something drinkable, only to end up a victim of her own efforts. And no, you cannot take that cue. For now. Having seen everything relevant, it's time to get inside the only apartment with a halfway closed door. Inside, on a chair, you can pick up a newspaper article, which among other informations also contain the name of the city we're currently in. November 19, 2063. In a groundbreaking move set to redefine Bransdon's landscape, Sherwood, a philanthropic organization, has declared plans for a transformative investment aimed at revitalizing the city's infrastructure. The initiative aims to usher in a new era of prosperity, promising job opportunities and modern transit systems in a city marred by economic struggles and social challenges. The article continued to say how most citizens were extremely happy for the news, and understandably so. After decades of poverty and unemployment, a light at the end of the tunnel finally started to become visible. A beautiful feeling which is, unfortunately, demolished by the sights of the never-ending walls. A firm reminder that everything positive this city had to offer is gone. Now it's nothing more than a mass grave, and it doesn't matter where you go, you can't escape. You are trapped. And whoever lived here knew it. And once this guy lost the only person that made this reality worth living, he chose to spend his time constantly immersed in a world that, despite being fictitious, was more bearable than ours. But sometimes thoughts are louder than our headphones and emotions stronger than the improvised concord. That's why his frigid arm is punctured by a syringe, which makes the keycard on his hand a too much comforting yet horrifying discovery.
Considering what this man wrote on the map and the open door, we can safely assume that he was waiting for someone who never came. And in my opinion, it's another example on how bleach life can sometimes get, because these people weren't gemanded by some supernatural monster or serial killer, but rather by their own unfortunate circumstances or emotions, which is something that too often happens in the real world. Just like reality, if you choose the right key, you can always dive deeper into how horrible everything can sometimes get.
After jumping down, you see the reason that led to the floor collapse. An unexploded missile lies wedged into the rubble. But this sight somehow manages to slip into the back of your mind when a dusty phone starts to ring.
Hello? Is anyone...
The voice on the other side sounds heavily modified. Maybe someone who has lived there since or even before the outbreak has somehow kept an eye on Mika. Having enough of this TikTok has sprinkled, Mika proceeds to end it. But before she has the time to place the phone on its original place, the oncoming voice says something that immediately chills your blood.
Watch out for the strays. They haven't had a proper meal in weeks.
Creepy fucking...
After placing the headset down, you're left with nothing but questions. How are phone lines still active and functional? How did that person know the exact flag you just entered? And most importantly, who or what are these strays? Maybe are just people that like to push other fella into us, but guys, I don't think that's very important right now, because I don't know if you noticed, but we are locked. Hey! Help me! Hey! They locked me here! Fuck, I don't want my hands to be derailed.
In total panic, you start looking for a way out. In the bathroom, there's nothing exceptional but a broken heater. Behind it, the wall is visibly damaged, so perchance there could be something that you can use to break through. And indeed, you do find a hammer, which can also be used to pry open the locked box. But alongside it, you also find a daunting sight, because when inside a room filled with faded toys, Mika interface once again appear. Charlie Gerwall. Date of birth 27/09/2054. COD aspiration pneumonia. At the bottom of the child beds, you can pick up one of his drawings. If I was a bazillionaire, I would buy mommy a new daddy and eat pizza every day.
It is unfortunately too obvious how all the citizens were left to themselves, having to survive on what little they found laying around while hoping that a random cold won't turn out to be fatal due to severe malnutrition and lack of medications. In fact, everyone you found seems to have perished from something different, everything but a specific systemic cause that may lead you to think to an attack of some sort. And most importantly, they were all in very different condition. Some were already skeletons while others were more recent. So maybe the possibilities of someone being alive aren't that inexistent.
But it's a thought that you're going to keep for later, since thanks to the hammer, Mika is able to create an exit from that unfortunate apartment, finally gaining access to the previously unseen second floor. Immediately outside, you see a streak of blood accompanied by a continuous loud banging. By following the trail, you get to a door. Someone is violently trying to get it open, while clearly whoever bashed the nail board in it did his best to keep whatever was inside confined in the flat. After picking your first melee thing up, the door opens. Obviously, something's waiting. This is one of the strays, or to put it simply, one of the countless victims of the pathogen. Whatever was used drastically mutated this person in ways that shouldn't even be physically possible. The chest cavity is completely empty, with the spine being the only thing that keeps legs and upper torso together. Thankfully, despite the supernatural appearances, a few well-placed hits with our stick will put it down. And here you may have noticed the first problem of the game.
Sound effect. Your firearms sound nice. What I don't understand are the melee sounds, which instead of a blunt object violently hitting someone are more akin to a slice of chicken breast being slapped on a table. Also, Mika's feet won't produce a specific noise based on what she's walking on, but rather a weird mix, which, I'll admit, gets really annoying really fast.
What now lies in front of you is the first puzzle of the story. And I wanna take a moment to appreciate the fact that they're all self-contained, and what I mean by that is that you don't have to backtrack all the way to the start of the game to get some AAA batteries in order to open a door. Instead, all clues and everything you need is always in the close proximity of your obstacle, and with just a quick glimpse around, you'll immediately find whatever is necessary to continue. Like in this case, where you have to figure out the birth date of this Ethan lady based on the photographs laying around. From inside the safe, you pick up the gate's key, so the lobby is once again finally accessible, which means that now, Mika must show how can I access someone else's locked property with just a hammer. From that box, you get a key from the first floor and a card reader, which can and will be used to create a master key from the one you already have, basically giving access to every single flat. But whatever's inside will remain a mystery until you see it for yourself. This newly accessed floor, just like all the others, except for a small difference. At the end of a hallway, one of the many shutters used to separate the complex in two different areas is slightly open, just enough to let Mika crawl underneath, only for a flashback to appear.
Hey, you remember that day we got stuck at the sushi joint on 7?
After a bit of confusion, you recognize that this is Mika's voice, narrating a special evening spent with Sasha, more specifically when our character realized she had fallen in love with her.
Everyone was freaking out, calling their bosses, lawyers, loved ones. You said there was no better way to go. Family and Foch. You know, that was the first time anyone had called me that. Family. Just the two of us.
No, I don't want to touch it. And that's why you're here, to save your girlfriend from a fate worse than death. And if you think that that is basically Signalis, well, you shut up then. Also, now I'll take a detour to answer all countless brain dead who asked if this game is woke. Yes, it is! Now you can sod off into X, where in between 2 seconds I flicked a dry handjob and another, you write some extremely racist shit while hoping for a retweet from Elon Musk that says something like, that's interesting, yeah. Or, someone should definitely look into that, yeah. Also, now I want to specify that the other sections won't receive the same attention I give to the apartment complex, and that's simply because this initial part perfectly encapsulates why I love this game so much. It was one of those rare occasions where I didn't feel scared, anxious, and oppressed because there was an undefeatable monster chasing me or a pile of meat as a boss fight, but instead because I could relate to the utter misery and isolation that these people went through, because to a smaller extent, at a point in my life I went through something similar. And I'm sure that if you're more than 5 years old and have lived in a country that isn't the wealthiest, know what I'm speaking about. Anyway, under the shutter you went. Even though this isn't a shutter, but imagine something slightly open here.
This new part is visibly dustier and overrun by roots, to the point where they fill entire areas, while also blocking some doors, like the gate leading to the elevator and its adjacent flat, which electronic is invaded by woods, making Mika totally legal master cat useless. But by looking around, you see a poster nearby a garbage bin. It's about safety procedures, and it tells that in case of a fire, all doors will automatically unlock. Unfortunately, your bell lighter isn't enough to set the garbage on. Surely, there must be something around. In the only accessible flat, a document can be found. It's a notice issued to all tenants by Sherwood after they acquired the entire complex. It basically says that the rent will increase, and if they can't afford it, to warn the responsible person within 6 months before moving out, or the constables are going to get involved. Given the already precarious economy of the city, it isn't hard to manage what kind of consequences this had. But besides some foreshadowing, you also managed to find a bottle of alcohol. I guess it's time to drive. But before we have time to reach Mika's car, the phone starts to ring.
Oh, great. It's you.
Murderer. You have blood on your hands.
Look, I don't know what those things were.
Murderer.
Can you stop saying that? Fuck.
Murderer. How did it feel? You beat that first one pretty hard.
How do you know that? What the f is
is this place?
Mika rightfully reacts shocked. After all, the only thing she violently murdered was a heavily mutated person. Even though there wasn't that much left of the person to begin with, since it was just an empty, mindless body. Or an hollow body.
It's now nothing less than obvious that whoever's on the other side of the phone is watching every single move you're making. But despite this silent stalker, you can't do much except push forward. Please watch out, because after setting on fire the alcohol-soaked trash, you're indeed able to trigger the security system, unlocking all doors, but also it will close the fire-cutting shutter behind you, locking all previous sections until further on in the story. So, if you think you missed something, this is a good time to backtrack and get everything done. Otherwise, after a good shower, all doors open except for the gate, so Mika is still forced to take a detour through the near apartment. First thing you hear is the radio beeping, and in the kitchen you're able to pick up the signal.
James! Water's not working again.
Again?
It's just spitting and smells funny.
Oh, come on, this is really taking the piss now.
I have work in the morning. Can't go in with greasy hair.
We still have a couple of bottles left. Give it an hour if it's not back. You can use those.
I wish we'd never moved to this stupid sea.
Oi, oi, Huey. Old mother done sent me up the duff and never takes me back.
Despite the increased rent, it seems that Sherwood did little to nothing to improve the tenants' living condition. If anything, goddammit, managed to do even worse than whoever was the previous owner. At least, he granted basic services like water, that could be described as water. But at least, it seems that these various issues, including water, increased rent, and occasional violent deadly outbursts, may have driven away those who could afford it, unknowingly saving their lives. Man, this room is shit. What do I wish for my future, you ask? I hope my family leads a happy life, that my work remains my passion, that my hobbies continue to bring me joy, and that the world evolves into a better place for everyone. What's certain is that even after death, my love for games, trophies, and collectibles will not fade. Obviously, this isn't entirely true. I've now become a collectible myself, waiting to be discovered by the curious. But this gives me hope. Hope that my other wishes will also be fulfilled, hope for my family's happiness, and hope for a better world. I'm confident that I will find rest in a beautiful place. I can smell the roses already. That almost made you cry. Of course not me. I'm a man. I'm an Italian man. I've never cried a single time in my entire life. Except way back when my aunt died. 2 years ago was a sad time to me. I miss you.
Pushing through this infinite wave of sadness and nihilism, you finally reach the elevator which, after a quick puzzle to power it on, is even functional. But weirdly, the highest point of the building isn't the sole thing you reach, because when Mika steps aside exposing herself to the harsh weather, she finds someone on the verge of jumping down. A malnourished man with an open wound across his face stands before me. He teeters over the 8th-story drop to the streets below, casually shifting his weight as he sways to a silent rhythm.
Excuse me.
He keeps glancing at his wristwatch, an old analog clock. I will be surprised if he still walks.
The soundtrack is overall amazing, but here especially the music does an incredible job at conveying the contrast created by the stranger's desperation when compared to the relative happiness and hope that you're feeling for not being alone anymore. In fact, if you want, you can even save this man, if you choose the right dialogue option. And even though I'm gonna show those lines, I will still make him fly on business class, and that's because he dropped something that I'm gonna need for my waka theories.
Done a lot of bad things today.
Bad things don't always make you a bad person. What did you do?
I've hurt people. People who hurt me.
You mean those things downstairs?
They hurt him too.
How did they?
Again, he glances at his wristwatch. As before, you can choose between 3 options, and the most interesting exchange happens if you ask.
Do you live up here? I saw the tent.
Not mine.
There are others? Other people, I mean.
Not anymore.
Did you grow up here? After the collapse?
Mother cared for us.
Your mother... Did she...
Our mother.
Strange words. Is there someone there? Strange words coming from an even stranger man, but in madness usually lies truth, and so, who is mother? By the way the stranger talked about her, this person must have taken care of a lot of people, maybe by telling them where to find food or shelter, perhaps due to her having access to various points of communication as well as cameras all over the city. And I know that right now she's kinda starting to get confusing, but trust me, it's about to get even worse.
She's here.
What?
Your friend. She's here too.
You've seen her?
I told you. Nobody leaves.
Weird, especially if you consider that not even 30 seconds ago he's said to be the last normal person in the city.
It's not much, but it's something. And in this world, if the slightest possibility of uniting with your loved ones or pursuing your dream career presents itself, you must take it.
That is why the stranger chose to jump, so he will have a sick challenge to upload as his first video.
Wait, no!
I was kidding, guys. Of course he's gonna come along, goddamn. Come on, look at him. Look how kawaii he is. When the stranger gets away from the 35 meters drop, Mika receives a call. It's Tax. After making sure you're okay, he tells to reach the subway system the Sherwood was building, since there, it will be easier for him to pick you up. So, after making sure the bro won't jump once Mika looks the other way, you pick up a crowd from outside the tent, which is for the building exit. The outside, instead of being deserted and in a way comforting, are now filled with monsters. Whatever is going on in this town knows about your presence and he wants you. But at least you don't have to worry about bro over here, since the monsters will ignore him, and even when he gets hit, doesn't take any damage. Another thing you notice are the much more frequent roadblocks, more often than not accompanied by life-deprived constables. So you start wondering what are the reasons behind this incredible increment in the number of officers, until the answer presents itself under the form of a new area, the park. Next to its entrance there is a ringing phone booth, and you know, without a shadow of a doubt, who's waiting for an answer.
Why do you keep calling me? Yeah, we're getting out of here. You should too, if you know what's good for you. What? You don't know me. Fuck, why am I even talking to you? What did you say? How do you know my name?
By telling Mika's name, the person on the other side of the line want to make clear that she's much more knowledgeable and powerful than what she previously gave out to be, especially considering the fact that Mika's never been here. So, if we think about the information that we just heard, it could be that this person is someone from the government who, for some reason, is playing with you. Or perhaps Sasha's already been found, but not by her saviors. And this exchange doesn't end well in the other scenario either. You know, the one where our friend here became part of the asphalt, because, as it turns out, he may be a little more important than what his demeanor suggests.
Good.
You didn't save him. That man was sick. He needed you. You failed him. Just like everyone else.
What the fuck do you know?
You needed him. He was important.
Yeah, I'm getting out of here. My friends are probably worried sick. You should too, if you know what's good for you. What? You don't
And from here on, the conversation goes as before. So, okay, first of all, nice attention to the detail. In here, the developer could have just glanced over the stranger altogether, but didn't. And this sort of attention isn't only found in plot elements like this one, but also in every single part of the environments, which, despite being made for a fixed camera angle point of view, are absolutely gorgeous to look at in first person.
Every house feels lived and drenched in agony, and most importantly, the vast majority of places actually resemble locations that you will go through in real life.
And I will continue on this later on. In the meantime, what the f is this guy? He isn't doing anything nor carries something besides his clothes, thank God, which are a pair of pants and a grey hoodie. It is also specified in the intro that the story takes place in the United Kingdom, and judging by how beautiful and picturesque everything is, I'll say England. Yes, we are in England. So we are in England, with a man who survived by relentlessly and actively avoiding any social interaction by never putting foot outside of his house until perhaps his G Fuel ran out. But if you have G Fuel in your home, you're sponsored by them. And if you're sponsored by G Fuel, you must be a YouTuber. So what we have here are a British G Fuel sponsored YouTuber who's wearing a grey hood. Son of a... It's him! I knew it! They forced me, they tricked me into saving a man whose only contribution to humanity was to steal my video and make a longer and better version of it. Well, not today, oh no. Pyrosetical, you ain't copying this one.
With that nonsense out of the way, you soon discover why there were so many coppers. This entire park was sealed due to the area being contaminated, and the roadblocks were put in place to avoid people sneaking in, or maybe out. As the city, the park is filled with sleeping constables and mutated monsters, which can easily be avoided, but it appears as if it was all in vain, since the entrance has been grotesquely locked. The body of a woman is chained to the gate, and a heart-shaped lock rests in her chest. At her feet, you find a wallet that belonged to a man. Inside, you find a keycard. It's time to reach its habitation. On the way back, you also notice something that at first went unnoticed. Tents, initially just a bunch of them, but the more you dive deeper into the heart of the park, the more pop out.
Well, I ain't going in there another time. That was a catastrophic failure, but anyway, it seems that everyone who lost his house came here seeking what little comfort this place had to offer, only to find death, and not by the hand of what you suspect.
In the confusion caused by the rain, vegetation, and 77,000 enemies, you see a distant light. Maybe it's pointing to supplies, or maybe to nothing. Unfortunately, it's something far way sinister, because what the light is pointed to is a mass grave containing those unfortunate souls that found themselves homeless and without a place where to quarantine. Close by, there's even a signal.
Is that the last of them? For today, sure. Jesus, this is so messed up. Do we let deep sleep on our conscience, don't you think? I didn't sign up for this shit. I wanted to help. We're burying fucking bodies, man. People. They don't deserve to end like this. Do we have a problem here? I need to make that call. Fuck. Come. No. Just... Come on, let's get out of it.
Unfortunately, what unfolded inside this park is nothing less but a massacre, which, needless to say, shouldn't have occurred. But someone gave the order, and those two fellas got it done.
And this brings a larger problem, way larger than what my intelligence can help me tackle, because should have they? Even if it is a direct order, should you knowingly do something inhuman? No, of course you shouldn't, but in the real world, it's never that easy because it's not black or white. And even if it looks like it, please remember that the butcher is never at the top of the chain, and its disgusting deeds only serve to overshadow who's truly responsible.
The outside of the house don't look any different from all the others, same thing from its insides. On a table, you find a camcorder still wired to the TV. Upon getting closer, the tape inside the device starts playing. Someone was recording inside the house, Doesn't seem as if this footage was that much old given the state of the depicted home, but something doesn't feel right. It seems that whoever was filming was trying to make as little noise as possible. Until... This is the third and last type of enemies. It's faster than the usual type of strays and deals huge amount of damage, but again, nothing too difficult. The fact that Mika automatically locks on target makes fighting kind of a chore. You know you're always going to hit whatever looks in the shadow, and if something else comes close, you just hit a button to change what she's aiming to. You just have to make sure to have enough ammo, which also isn't a problem since you'll find plenty. Not enough to pulverize everything you see, but just the right amount to get out of most situations without having to resort to melee. I thank God for that because it sucks.
Honestly, this game would have greatly benefited from a shooting system similar to the one used in the old Resident Evils, where your character doesn't lock on a single target, but instead turn in its general direction while still allowing you to freely aim and look around, making encounter with multiple enemies more manageable and paradoxically even more difficult because it leaves space for human error and wasted ammunition. While in here, it doesn't. You don't have to worry about shit because you have cheat engine going on. But it is also true that in life, you cannot have everything. And if on one side we got beautifully detailed environments and a pretty good subplot, on the other we have this safe, mildly boring combat system, which in itself isn't bad. It just could have been better. Yeah, definitely. Now I get off from here before everything crashes on my head.
On the upper floor, you find a bedroom with two girls lying under a blanket. Once again, your radio starts making noise. From the signal, you learn that these two girls were sisters, who, having survived for months or even years, chose to get back to the lobby by their own terms. Considering the context where the house key was found, I think that these two sisters sneaked in way after the outbreak started. Probably they weren't even alone, but whoever was with them succumbed to the disease soon after they locked him into the bathroom. In the nearby room you find a tripod where the camcorder must be placed. Once done, you notice that it's pointing at the house in front of where you are, directly at its entrance. Thankfully this time there aren't any jump scares, but instead, the scene of a murder. In the bathroom, a man lies inside a bathtub. It looks as if he was watching the camcorder contents while bathing when the whole thing fell into the water. At the bottom, Mika can see something, but unfortunately she can't retrieve it without electrocuting herself. So you start searching for something to circumvent this problem. In the upper floor there are two more rooms. The first one is fitted with a king-size bed. Impaled to one of the walls rests the body of someone who used to live here. And you can actually take the road sign and use it as a weapon. Goddamn. Alongside the juices of the man, the walls are also covered in pictures of women and houses, which in my opinion were not placed by the owners of this place, but instead by someone who moved in here after fulfilling his disgusting desires. From the wardrobe, you pick up a coat hanger. The next room contains a child's bed. There's no sight of him. Lucky, you may think, but no. There is no luck, if anything, the exact opposite, because a nearby drawing made by the kid who lived here shows who's the responsible for this, while also hinting at the sickening fate made by its artist.
There were Diddy jokes in this video once, and a lot of them, but they're all gone because they've all become inappropriate. Guys, this one is white. No! Who am I gonna clown on? Oh yeah, I got it. We are in 2024. 1 people out of 2 are
silliness aside, what I think happened is that one shit hit the fan and the constables were busy fighting monsters or starving homeless families or something. The guy who lived across the street took his chance and stormed the residence. After incapacitating the father, he used the wife to vent his violent and sadistic outburst. After which, he moved into this house where, for the first time, this man unleashed his true inner self, where for the first time, he really felt at home. But what's the point of doing all of this if no one knows it's you? After all, who's an artist? Is it someone who draws for his own pleasure or for others to enjoy? That's why, after building a makeshift hook thanks to the cloth hanger and the yo-yo in the kids' room, you find the key to the heart-shaped lock in the bathtub. This person put it in there because he wanted you to acknowledge how many lives he was able to take. He wanted you to acknowledge that it was him that distributed that much sufferance. But why? Well,
sometimes connection in our brain simply go wrong and there is no explanation for actions that are this vile. Sometimes it's just that.
While walking toward the exit, you spot a newspaper on a sofa.
Artificial intelligence nanocells, anti-aging or fast-track fatality. A third fatality at the hands of controversial pharmaceutical conglomerate Echo Gardens prompts backlash with the wider medical community as tests continue for Echo's diverse new AI-powered nanocell initiative. Promising to stunt the effect of aging by high as 90%, this new technology has yet to see a commercial release, but it's stated to enter production in just 12 months from now on. Many fear Echo's ambition may be detrimental to the wider medical industry as the company grows to a staggering 87% market dominance, raising cause for concern surrounding the supply of raw materials used in common medicines. Echo Initiative have declined to comment on this third tragic fatality, messaging that all parties involved are fully aware of the risks and compensated appropriately.
A way to extend our life sounds always nice, but maybe sometimes we should ask ourselves, should we? Should we extend the life of someone who will be forced to live in a dying world? A world where our own wrongdoing has started a catastrophic series of events that will have long-lasting consequences on everything and everyone? I don't know. What I know is that we have dealt with some pretty heavy stuff, and if in any way you feel afflicted by it, just please talk with someone. Without being your family, your friends, a professional, just let the words out, brother. Speaking with someone always helps you putting things into perspective and to realize how tiny they really are. So please just do it. Okay, now where was I? Yes, corpse on a gate, yes.
After using the heart-shaped key, last, you free this woman from her chains, finally gaining entrance to the church. This new area marks the change from incredibly good level design to mid, because where the apartment complex was fully fleshed out with lots of things to see and discover, all other areas can be considered just a quick stop. And what I think happened is that the developer simply wanted to get over with. And yeah, you heard me correctly, developer. Everything you saw and that you will see was made by a single person. The music, environments, and even characters, but not their voices though. That would have been mesmerizing. So, to reconnect to what I said before, you're going to see how the other locations didn't receive the same attention and effort as the apartments, and I truly understand why. When you've been working on a single project for a hell of a lot of time, you just want to get it over with. Needless to say, it doesn't make the rest of the game bad. It's simply a shame if you think about what it could have been.
Anyway, the church. What? But I wanted God, man. I just wanted to pray and to give them a shit ton of money so I could have the right to tell other people to do the same or they'll burn in hell. I'm sick. Wait a second. We are in Italy. So this is a Catholic church. Okay, I know what I need to enter. We need a bunch of kids. Just bring me the children. Bring them, the children.
The church exterior is filled with graves. Some of them at a point in time were dug up and clean empty. And judging by the still lit lanterns, not even that much. Also, here's a cool tangent. In the apartment complex, if you explore every square centimeter of the place, you'll eventually find the flat where the gravedigger lived. Yeah, I just thought it was a cool detail to mention. Inside the church, all benches are occupied by the people who choose to put their lives in the hands of God instead of proactively try to save themselves.
Remember, fellas, if you find yourself in a horrible situation, do something about it. Talk with somebody, take a walk in the park, go fishing, play CSGO, I don't know. What I know is that unfortunately God doesn't help someone who's not willing to help himself. And as a confirmation that you must act to build your own road and not wait for a magical being to do things, Mika finds a pump-action shotgun on the altar.
Near the entrance, you see a piece of furniture which, I don't know how to call, the hashtag candle on display. What you now have to do is solve a puzzle which will have Mika running around the graveyard to check what tombs have the lantern still on, so you can light the corresponding candles, but only after you paid $1 each, after which an underground entrance opens. And don't get fooled by these tombs, it's just a super section, and not only that, but also a massive wasted opportunity. Soon after entering, you reach a big chamber used to link with other tunnels. In here, there's a gate covered in intestines with 4 different locks. So you start thinking, hey, maybe I should look for a way to open this. And so you do. Looking around, besides wacky mutated insects, you see horrifying scenes of macabre rituals. Human hearts were placed inside ritualistic circles, and you can even pick them up while still pulsating. There's 4 of them in total, but after the 3rd, something strange begins to happen.
Why am I getting teleported all over the places? What is going on? Oh! Nah, man, this game is fucking with me right now. What is going on?
It really seems as if the cause of everything may not be as biological as we thought. But no, because even after you find the 4th and place all of them in this very creepy contraction, nothing happens. I mean, a giant heart appears where the gate will be, but it has no sense. It's just there for the sake of being there. And it is not the first time the game makes something like this appear, since in one of the houses, a face looking at us will pop up for a threat second. But whereas the latter is a not very subtle way to say that you're being watched, this simply has no sense, especially when this part could have been used to show how much the city has spiraled into madness, maybe by putting another one of the killer's victim or the boy he kidnapped.
But no, you only get 20 minutes of your life stolen away, and what makes this worse, or better, depending on how you play, is that you ain't forced to do any of this. You could just run in the tunnel while blasting everything with your shotgun, and this part would be just like a walk in the park. If the park had ponds with floating turds instead of swans, but if you instead choose to explore and see everything, you will be rewarded by wasting life. Also, I read somewhere that the developer's intention here was to make the player feel powerless and oppressed. But that didn't really work, because someone tends to feel powerless and oppressed when the world around them is crumbling, when everyone you know is suffering and you can't do anything about it. Not when time wasted because lol.
But anyway, with this newly found knowledge, you find a manual leading to the surface, once again finding yourself in the city. As before, enemies are swarming the city streets. Nothing unusual except for the giant wood formations, which sometimes take the space of entire town squares. But again, if you look hard enough, you'll find evidence that these people were treated like monsters way before they transformed.
I'm not leaving, goddammit, this is my home. Sir, I'm sorry, but this area has been declared unfit for residence by the court of law. Sherwood will aid with your relocation. You will be assigned suitable housing in line with the value of your current property. I've lived here for 52 years. You have no right walking in here like you own the place. Sir, this location is indeed now owned by Sherwood Estate Management. You are currently considered to be trespassing on private property. Nonsense! I didn't agree to any of this. Should you persist in your refusal to comply, I will have no choice but to escalate this issue with our non-compliance team. Did your mother ever teach you some damn manners? Escalate this, you good-for-nothing little bootlicker!
Attached to the building where the old man was evicted from, you see a letter written by Sherwood.
Without many games of words, it says that the occupants must vacate the building as soon as possible. But given the fact that supposedly a bioterrorism attack took place, couldn't Sherwood or whatever just inform the population? I'm pretty sure that everyone would have collaborated way more easily if they knew that there was the chance to become bloodthirsty monsters. But it is also true that by saying something like that, you, as government or whatever, are actively admitting your failure, and then you gotta worry about actually doing some work, spending some public money that aren't yours, but that you would have kept nonetheless. Man, such a mess. Just leave it to the next one in charge. He'll take care of it. He always does. He never does.
After dealing with the enemies inside, you look for a way to continue toward the subway, but the back exit is locked because one of the fuses failed. In front of the shutter, you also find a newspaper article. It appears as if all projects were left in the air, but maybe their objective wasn't a lucrative investment into public transport, nor to acquire the land which houses were built on, but rather something far worse. Providentially, there is no need to go looking for a fuse in every house of the block since you're in a shop, mate, and they sell this shit. And now that you have a pack of them, you can progress. Or go all the way back to the apartment complex, use one of the fuses to open the fire-cutting shutter so you can fish out that key on the 3rd floor thanks to the makeshift hook, which unlocks the only apartment that uses a standard lock. This is because in here lived a prepper who feared AI or something and didn't want an electronic door. Anyhow, inside you find a flamethrower with unlimited ammo. Was it worth it? Yeah, absolutely. Outside the market you find a letter that someone lost while fleeing. And for the first time it's revealed who the armed sleeping fellas are.
Hey KG, it's been a while. I have no idea if this will ever get to you, but we've all been out of power for weeks. Things here in Bransdon are really going to shit, like more than usual. High streets are boarded up, businesses are there one day and empty the next, like everything's gone. It's starting to look like a ghost town. This is the fucking opposite of what they promised. People are saying some folks have gone missing, everyone's on edge. Sherwood brought in their own security crew, and now it feels like we're all walking on eggshells. People are keeping to themselves, afraid to even step outside.
Based on what this person wrote, we can safely assume two things. The first one is that the person who Pyrocynical calls mother was somehow able to reactivate electricity to help whoever was stuck inside. And the second is that Sherwood knew. They knew that something was bound to happen, but never did anything. Only starved the population when it was already too late.
By making the last stretch, you finally get to the subway's entrance. The place is inundated with routes. Despite the copious amount of shutters, none of the shops are accessible. And it doesn't look as if they were quickly closed, but rather never opened in the first place. And I get that this was made to show that the place wasn't finished, but come on, man! The cement block to prevent me from exploring! How dare you! I'm not a toad, well, I mean, when I'm drunk I am, but otherwise I'm not. When you start descending the stairs, another flashback starts, and I want to specify that in the game there aren't just the two that I showed, but there's pretty much one every time you enter a new area. But unlike another game where flashback alongside giving you backstory also tie in with in-game events and are essential to understand what happened, here they just work as seasoning. Each one only serves to underline the love between our characters, and there's nothing wrong with that, but once the sentimental factor has already been thrown into play, you should focus on clarifying other stuff while still highlighting the feel between the two. For instance, why was Mika already armed? She didn't seem to know there were monsters, so why the revolver? The description says it's popular with security agencies, but she's clearly not part of one since, you had to illegally sneak out from the city and be back in 24 hours before anyone noticed anything. And it's a thing which gets addressed at the very end when someone says she's been convicted of petty crimes.
So why the fucking revolver? If you steal change and fly smuggle goods for a living, why a high-tech pistol? Also, doesn't any crime you commit lose the petty adjective once you're found with a weapon? So, just have a flashback where Sasha gifted to Mika after she's been wounded in a risky run, or because she's a gunnet. In this way, you both address minor plot holes like this one while also covering the relationship. So, to cover this useless rant, let's just say that these flashbacks could have been used better. Anyway folks, time to descend those stairs and figure out how to reach tax. But once you reach the bottom, routes and old ticket machines aren't the only thing that greets you, because among these pieces of a past long gone, you also hear a noise. A noise you have unfortunately grown accustomed to.
Needless to say, it's always the same person. Basically, absolutely nothing of interest is said. Besides,
I can feel you.
Do you ever give it up?
this time she's speaking in a different manner. Her voice seemed to be suffering from a lack of signal, maybe caused by the walls or the distance.
Or by the complete opposite reasons is after many hours of research, and mainly due to the fact that in an abandoned village there isn't any signal, I discovered that the same thing can happen when the signal is too strong. Basically, the technologic juice overflowing the cable, making everything garbage. So if whoever is on the other side of the line is being truthful, you'll soon meet her. And given the information she shared, everything points to the fact that Sasha is with her. If those info were given voluntarily or not is another matter, but I think they were. I mean, if you think about it, the voice never put you in any danger, did it? If anything, it tried to warn Mika about the deadly danger in the city, like the strays and the British weather. It even shown compassion when Pyrocynical realized that my video was better than his. Okay, we are almost done. Man, I'm cooked. I really am cooked. Fuck me. Oh! No, okay, other two. Fuck. The subways are a very small area, and mainly because the routes block 3/4 of all passages, but of course, this didn't stop the monsters from overrunning this place. The primary objective is to access the only train lane to go somewhere, but the access to said lane is blocked, and we need a ticket, but to operate the ticket machine we need money, and most importantly, to power it. Unfortunately, the ground is littered with sleeping bags, ketchup, a note, basically everything but money or electricity. The document, though, is, to say the very least, interesting. Because it's a confidential communication issued by none other than the pharmaceutical giant Eco Initiative.
It has come to our notice that there have been several instances where confidentiality has been breached with details pertaining the work of Kiksu Kurt spreading outside of our organization. The protection of the sensitive data is of the utmost importance to Eco Initiative and its subsidiaries. Upon a thorough investigation, we have identified and taken decisive action against those individuals suspected to be involved. Your cooperation and vigilance in upholding the confidentiality of our work are vital.
Besides telling you that nature's BBs, this document also proved that under the city, away from any unwanted eyes, something was being conducted. But by whom? Well, it's not like we have many suspects given that in the entirety of the game, only 2 companies were named, Eco Initiative and Sherwood. So if someone from Echo talks about protecting secrets from indeed Echo and its subsidiaries, we can safely say that the 2 responsible are Echo and Sherwood. But what did they do? Why did everyone mutate? And most importantly, who the fuck attacked the city? Let's see, 9mm. Fantastic, man, fantastic. There's someone armed nearby and I'm here, all alone. Amazing. Was it a rival company, like AstraZeneca or Johnson & Johnson? Luckily, a couple of coins can be found in one of the bathrooms, peacefully wedged inside a man's eye socket, symbolizing humanity's tendency to game end itself by constantly pursuing wealth or YouTube monetization. Or another option is that the security team who shot all survivors had a sudden development in their mannerism, and so they placed coins all over these people's eyes so they could pay Chiron and go to heaven. To restore the power, you instead have to go to the opposite side of the place, destroy 73 enemies, and then use the last fuse you got because the one that powered the whole station burned down. And if you're starting to think that this part may have been rushed, then you're right, which is not to say that this subway part in itself is bad, it's just a shame and it just could have been so much better. For instance, in addition to the burn fuse box, the developer could have also put a puzzle similar to the one in the apartments where you had to reach a certain tension to get everything on. But instead now you just have a list of chores to do before being able to progress, which is in complete contrast to earlier where you had to think your way through. Unfortunately, especially at these last sections, you can perceive the guy's rush and exhaustion. What I think he wanted to do was to publish the game in October, giving himself some more time to add small things like the sewer part that you can't unlock or a decent puzzle before the end, but couldn't. Because, as you may heard, a little thing was announced some days before Hollowbody initial sale date, something which was already in the air by quite some months, with that being Silent Hill 2 release date. After which, our guy panicked because he knew that if someone has already spent $70 on a game, they won't be much inclined for quite some time to spend another penny for anything but food. Consequently, he abandoned any plan for polishing and or additional things to get it out on sale. In addition to that, you must take in consideration the psychological strain that a project like this has on its single developer. Was it the right decision? Businesses-wide, yes and no. I mean, the game is out, sure, and horror fans had something to play and discuss before Silent Hill 2, and despite a launch which didn't see as many people as I thought, the game was even well received. But if he had waited a bit more, not only would I have the time to do stuff, but also every piece of media about this game wouldn't have got overshadowed by Silent Hill 2, the best video it says, which is why this video currently has 22 views and 1 like. Meanwhile, artistically speaking, the answer is no. You voluntarily choose to deliver a relatively unfinished product which, doesn't matter how valid in itself is, it will always be the shadow of what it was supposed to. And ultimately, you're giving slighter chances of being something unique, something incredible, and to make it out there. So the overall answer is no. He did not make the right decision, and with a couple months more into the oven, which would have brought a more consistent quality and quantity of things to do in each area, Hollowbody could have become a one of a kind. Hell, even a cult classic, but it didn't, and it never will. It's simply a very solid game which falls short from being a masterpiece due to haste. So, if you bought the game after I started my video because I said it was a masterpiece, I'm not sorry, simply because this game is truly amazing, and it's still better than 99% of the Xbox Game Pass catalog, and you should play it after I'm done with me. There was an ugliest mosquito that was trying to land on me. Anyway, and you should play it after I'm done with my video. And trust me, we are there, because Jesus Christ, I'm tired, I wanna go home, and I... Help me, please!
After changing the station powering fuse and buying a ticket, you unlock the access to the gate. The tunnel is free, so both you and Pyrocynical sprint toward its end, finding a giant crater. Given that one of our friends' arm here is held together like this final section, and so by hopes and dream, he stays behind in case something happens. After a not-so-believable animation, you get down, reaching what looks like a cave, but its walls and floor aren't made out of ancient stone, but rather of fresh, pulsating meat. Every now and again, you stumble upon a rotting scientist firmly set inside a twisting wall of flesh. Their hazmat suit did little to nothing to protect their bodies, which are dark and dry in appearance, where the brain was supposed to be the skull sunk in, as if whatever trapped them in this eternal, ever-moving stone sucked their souls out before exposing them as trophies. Driven by a justified thirst for knowledge, you look around, finding nothing. Only some C4 attached to certain corners which you cannot take, and more useless instruments. But by following their cables, you arrive at a bridge. At its end, another scientist is wedged into the fleshy walls, but unlike all others, he's clenching something in one of his hands. A detonator. And indeed, very handy piece of technology, which comes at the right place, since when you pick it up, a fat-ass spider starts chasing Mika. What follows is a chase sequence, which also counts as boss fight. And I know that right now you're thinking, hey Apple, this is shit. But it actually isn't that bad, especially after you spent all day shooting or burning everything that could count as living being with an aimbot without having to worry about anything. At least in here, you must be careful not to blow yourself into pieces, giving the player a nice anxiety-inducing run before everything finishes. After you tranquilize the beast, because that thing looks many things except that, a whole crate under the detonator wielding fella, finally letting you access the ending, which I will let play, so if you don't wanna watch it, skip in the what happened time, you know what to do. Huh?
Sasha?
Why am I limping? I literally was in perfect health.
Mika enters a chamber. The branches of an enormous tree tower over metallic barrels and scientific equipment.
Sash, can you hear me? It's me. It's Mika. I'm gonna get you out of here. It's okay, Sash. I'm here.
Meek, I can't move my legs.
It's okay, hon. Dax is coming. He's coming for us. He's gonna get us out.
I don't want to die here.
Hey, stop that. That's not how this ends, you hear me? I didn't come all this way to give up on you now.
I grasped my radio. I knew my chances. We were mile underground, surrounded by dirt and rock. Nothing. Just the familiar sound of the radio chasing static across bands.
Oh, fuck. Think, Mika. Think.
Glancing around the room, I heard something. Even down here, that person managed to find you. But when Mika answers, the conversation doesn't go as you would expect.
Thank you for calling Sherwood Estate Management. Please hold and one of our operators will be with you shortly.
But surely enough,
It's you.
And it is you.
I don't know what to do. I don't understand any of this.
It's okay, Mika. I'm right here with you. I can help.
You can't help me. I wish you could, but
That's where you are mistaken. Look around you, Mika. Whilst my words may be limited by this device that binds me, that does not mean I can't be the one to help you.
it's beautiful.
We're not that different. You and I too have suffered. Wishing to be free of these shackles.
I don't understand. Is this... How are you doing this?
You need not worry anymore, Mika. Tell your friend to follow my light. I will guide him.
Wait, I don't understand. Please.
Please hold while we forward your call. Your patience is appreciated.
Hello?
Tax? Tax, is that really you?
Mika! Jesus fuck, are you seeing this? Place is lit up like a Christmas tree. Wait, how are you calling me?
Never mind that. Tax, you've got to help me. I found her. She's here, but she's hurt, but she's here.
Okay, hold on. Tell me where you are.
I don't know. It's a cave of some kind. Must be less than a mile out from the city limits. Tax, I know how this sounds, but you just need to follow the lights, okay? I took the westbound tunnel, like you said, but it was a wreck. The tracks caved into this huge cavern. That's where I found her. I found her, Tax.
I got you. I'm at the tunnel entrance now. It was dark, but now it's clear as day. You think you can hold out for just a little while longer?
Tax, we haven't got much time.
I'm coming, Mick. We'll be out in no time, I promise. Don't let her. You hold her tight. And you think about all the good she's brought us. Remind her this world is worth living for. Don't let her go. I'll be there before you know it. I promise. This is the final step, Mick. You can do this.
Don't be late, Tax.
while waiting for him, Mika sits close to Sasha. Together they speak about when they've met. Truly, everything is magnificent. Until the developer wanted you to understand that Sasha is unfortunately infected, so he applied a TikTok filter to her face. Like, come on man! After a bit, Tux finally arrives, finding you covered in blood. It's not clear if yours or Sasha's.
You're safe now, little sparrow. Mother will keep you warm.
From here, two things can happen. Well, actually three. But before that, what in the hell just happened?
It's obvious that there never was a bi-attack of any sort, but rather a deliberate in-house poisoning. As I previously said, only two companies are named in the entirety of the game, with them being Sherwood, which brought a shit ton of land in the city, and Eco Initiative, which was about to commercialize their anti-aging ideals. So what happened is the Sherwood bought all the land, but not to build the underground subway system, but instead to have a place where Eco Initiative could bury all the waste derived from the IPL or whatever the fuck it was. But unfortunately, with time, many of the barrels started leaking. It's not known if it was caught by rodents or whatever, but what is sure is that the content poured aside reaching any nearby form of life, included but not limited to a small plant and perhaps a spider. But most importantly, it also reached the underground waters.
Initially, the water started to come out of a slightly and somewhat urinal yellow, but as the day passed and the water quality didn't improve, people started to ask questions, and when the water stopped altogether, citizens demanded answers, in some cases even resorting to violence. Initially just a few who were considered the most enraged among the protesters, but then, more and more, day after day, people were beaten in the streets, entire families murdering each other. Echo and Sherwood knew that something which shouldn't have happened did in fact happen, since despite the best minimal effort, the water really couldn't be reactivated, so they sent a team to investigate what was happening where the width was initially placed. And what they found was something never saw before. A tree. They soon realized the real scale of what was in front of them. Its roots now reached anywhere in Bransdon, every street, every house, all electric lines and every single pipe in the city. And by then, the damage was already done. But by already quite some time, since whatever deadly concussion was in those barrels started to have its effect on the citizens long before the tree grew to its immense size.
I don't know if all the cries, prayers and profanities heard during the years helped this self-teaching being to develop a personality, maybe even a conscience, but it did, and he knew that in this situation there were butchers and butchered.
Whoever was stuck in the city often received some call by an unknown entity, leading him or her towards clean water and food. By using the power of being, it delivered electricity to those still in need, and paradoxically took it out whenever necessary. Mika crashed because he wanted you to find Sasha, or because it wanted Sasha to be found, but either way, it's the same. What is in front of our character is mother, and how things end from now on depends on basically if you said pyrocynical or no.
If you don't choose the right word, he'll jump. But eventually, after you pick up the flamethrower, you can take a diary page from his cold British body.
Salve. Salve.
Come è entrato?
Da là.
Dove?
Dal cancello.
I'm gonna do my best pyrocynical impression now.
People were sick. Most people were sick. If you visit someone who was sick, then you'll be next. People were vomiting blood, screaming in their sleep. I wrote screaming in their screaming in their sleep, attacking their loved ones. There's a lot between them and now. It makes a lot of sense to me for some reason. I never got sick. Just some kind of twisted joke, I guess. I'll life I never care for it, just will let go.
Pyrocynical just gave us a first-hand report about the initial days of the outbreak because he was there. The barrels did indeed contain the initial failed batches of the IPL, which being the first interaction was highly dangerous and incompatible with moth, except for him and a few others, which, despite being basically 100 years old at the time of finding, were extremely young in appearance. For some reason, Pyrocynical and a few others were perfectly compatible with the medication and were gifted decades of life in isolation, fear and misery.
But now, he's not here because he must make more slop for the second channel, so both Tax and Mika eventually succumbed to the non-updated eye drug which mutated everyone in those freaks. And after many years, this happened. I truly have no idea what's going on. Meanwhile, if you drive him towards a better career, both Mika and Tax will have their sorry asses rescued by him. But despite having it made on shore, Tax looked like shell-shocked and Mika isn't breathing. But when she did remember how to convert O2 in CO2, she get brought in by the constables for interrogation. Only that, who's questioning her, as an all too familiar yet distinct voice.
And I suspect that Eco Initiative deliberately put the garbage under the city, knowing very well what it would have caused. Maybe because one of their partners, perhaps one specialized in real estate, had just finished building a certain private island where pesky things like public law, regulation and government weren't present. Only one problem though, no inhabitants. That is, of course, until something drove them where they were wanted. So, suffice to say, the responsible for this genocide did not pay. Evil has won. And folks, the video is basically finished. I don't know what to say except thank you for being here. I don't know what to say except a special thank to everyone that usually leave a comment under my video. You are what keeps me going, and with a few words you do way more than what you can imagine. Fuck me, I don't know how to end this video. Well, lads, I don't know how to close this, so thank you for watching, and as I said before, consider speaking with somebody if you have wacky thoughts. And yeah, have a beautiful, fantastic day. Also, sorry if this video didn't come out on Halloween, but I was busy, sorry, goodbye!